And today we're continuing in the book of Psalms, Summer of Psalms, and we are in Psalm chapter 90. That's where we're going to be at this morning. If you have your Bibles and you want to start getting ahead of it and look up, don't worry, it's going to be on the screen if you don't have your Bibles behind me. But the other day, I was sitting in the living room with my son, Maddox, and we're in the living room, and Arrow, we're kind of looking this way, and Arrow is walking from like the playroom into her room. And so she's walking past us. And as she's walking past us, like, she looks at me and she smiles. And then she looks at her brother and she frowns. And she's like just petting her dog. And she's walking, like she's got both dogs like right there. She's petting them. And then so like me being me and Maddox, we had to say something to her to kind of aggravate her a little bit, right, and mess with her. And she just kind of stops. She's like, "Dad, you have no aura." And just kept walking. I don't even know what that means. But apparently it's not good to not have aura. I don't know. I'm an old man, I guess. And so, but as she was doing this, I was looking at her and I'm watching her and I realized in 8 years, I'm going to be dropping her off in college. And I have less time with my daughter from now until she goes to college. I have less time with that than what I've had since she's been born. Like her time with us in our household is over halfway done, and it's just like it's a crazy kind of thinking. Like, where did all this time go? My little baby girl, she's not a baby anymore. Like I said, in 8 years, about 8 years from now, we're going to be getting ready. Oh my goodness, I can't imagine what her and my wife are going to be like those last few weeks leading up to her actually moving to college. But it's just, I think about it, it's like, you know what, that bald, cone-headed baby who made me a dad is not a baby anymore, right? That little girl, that little baby who would she'd be crying in the middle of the night, and I'd go and pick her up and save her from her crib prison that she was in because she's crying and she's hungry. And I'd pick her up and she'd just give me like the tightest, like she's not a baby anymore and she's going to be gone before I know it, because that's how life happens. It happens too fast. And all of the cliches that you hear when you're younger that you would roll your eyes at, it's true. Like, the older you get, the faster it goes. That didn't make any sense to me when I was 15 years old. Like, it is like, what do you mean? 24 hours is 24 hours. A week is a week. A year is a year. What do you mean it goes faster? No, it goes too fast. Like, summer break, it used to feel like it lasted forever, right? Christmas took forever to finally get back around to it, right? Waiting for your birthday as a kid was a pointless endeavor because it never happened. And now, summer lasts about a week and a half, and it's over. Christmas, every other month I'm buying Christmas gifts. Why am I buying so many Christmas gifts? Right? I went from 30 to 41 in about 6 days. I don't know what happened. It just 30, now I'm 41. It happened. Like, according to Steve and all of his friends, I'm an old preacher now. I'm like, wait, it's just, how does it, like, I say things now like back in my day. Listen, then maybe I'm going through like a midlife thing or whatever, but like now I'm looking at the things that I wore in high school. The hairstyles that I had in high school, they're cool again. Like, this is the first time in my life that like the things that I used to do is now gone out of style, got ridiculed and made fun of, and how could you wear that? And now they're wearing it. Like, this is the first time it's happened to me, and looking back is like, wow, where did the time go? Right? I got some gray hairs. I know I found a new one last night on the side of my head. At first, like, that was like, oh, you got a gray beard. Yeah, but I don't have a gray hairs on my head. I found one last night. Now I sneeze wrong, and I limp around for a week. I'm like, what happened? I used to be a highly tuned athlete. I could run a 5-minute mile. And now I sneeze, and I'm like, what happened? As I'm walking like this it happens. Life happens fast. And understand this, like, it's a good thing to get old. I know some people are like, it's a terrible thing to get old. No, it's not. It is a good thing to get old, because here's the thing. You can either get old or you can die. Like, there's two options that you have in life. Life does not last forever. Now, some of you are thinking, I sure am glad I came to church today. You're talking about babies getting older and going to college and death. Yes, listen, I'm glad you're here too. I really am glad, because it's not all, doom and gloom here. We're going to go somewhere with this. But in Psalm chapter 90, it's written by Moses in the desert. It's a psalm of an old man who knows that he is close to dying, but before he dies, he writes this. And so Psalm chapter 90, starting in verse 1, he says, Lord, you have been our dwelling place throughout all generations. Before the mountains were born, or you brought forth the whole world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You turn people back to dust, saying, return to dust, you mortals. 1,000 years in your sights are like a day that has just gone by, or like a watch in the night. Yet you sweep people away in the sleep of death. They are like the new grass of the morning. In the morning it springs up new, but by evening it is dry and withered. We are consumed by your anger and terrified by your indignation. You have set our iniquities before you, our secret sins in the light of your presence. All our days pass away under your wrath. We finish our years with a moan. Our days may come to 70 years or 80 if our strength endures. Yet the best of them are but trouble and sorrow, for they quickly pass and we fly away. If only we knew the power of your anger. Your wrath is as great as the fear that is your due. Teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Relent, Lord. How long will it be? Have compassion on your servants. Satisfy us in the morning with your unfailing love, that we may sing for your joy and be glad all our days. Make us glad for as many days as you have afflicted us, for as many years as we have seen trouble. May your deeds be shown to your servants, your splendor to their children. May the favor of the Lord our God rest on us. Establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. Now, on the surface, you read that and that's kind of depressing. There's some heavy stuff about all of our days being afflicted and sorrowful, and you sweep us away, and we're like, us as humans, we're like new grass in the morning that's withered and dried away by the evening. It sounds, if you just read it and don't really look at what is being said, it sounds depressing and cold and sad. But this psalm isn't supposed to discourage us. It's actually a psalm that is written to wake us up. It's an encouragement to live a life that matters. In this chapter, we see a few things, but a couple that I want to focus on this morning. The first one is this: life changes, God does not. Moses is at the end of his life, and he's reflecting back, and he is struck by just how magnificent and powerful God is. So he reminds us, God does not change. God is not limited by time. God is bigger than all of this. Moses has lived 120 years. He is an old man. He's almost as old as Mona is. Where's Mona at? There. Listen, she got me this week, so I had to get her back. So he's lived 120 years. He's watched an entire generation of his fellow Israelites pass away in the wilderness. He has buried family and friends. He has experienced disappointment. He knows his time on earth is coming to an end. And when Moses looks back at all of it, Moses has lived an incredible life. And when he looks back over his life, he doesn't begin by talking about all the things that he's lost, all the things the way that it used to be. He begins by talking about who God is. He says, Lord, you have been our dwelling place throughout all generations. I love that, because generations come, generations go, but God remains the same. When you look at the entirety of Moses' life, you will see that his entire world changed several times. But one thing in his life that never changed was God. When he's talking, when he looks back and he's reflecting on 120 years of life, he doesn't say, Lord, you've made everything easy, because life wasn't easy for Moses. He doesn't say, Lord, you've made everything, the things that you've done, I've always understood everything that you've done. He doesn't say that because Moses didn't understand some things that happened. He says, Lord, through all of this, you have been our dwelling place. You have been our shelter. You have been our refuge. You have been the thing that has been constant through all of it. That's the testimony of a man who walked with God through every season of his life. When he didn't understand what was going on, he walked with God. When he was struggling with what was happening in front of him, he walked with God. When he was afraid of what came next, he walked with God. When he was secure and safe, he walked with God. Throughout his entire life, God was his shelter. God was his dwelling place. A dwelling place is a home. It's a place of security and comfort and refuge. And Moses is saying, everything else in life changes, but God, you've always been a place that I can go and find comfort, security, and a safe place. Moses has lived a life of ups and downs. He's had great victories. He's also experienced some severe defeats. His circumstances have changed. His responsibilities have changed. His people have changed, but God never changed. And he says in verse 2, he says, before the mountains were born, or you brought forth the whole world from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. This is one of those verses, when you really look at it, it's a little bit mind-bending because we can't fully grasp what he is saying here. Everything in the world has a creation date. The mountains, the beach, the stars, you, me, all of us have a creation date. Everything except God. Before there was never a moment where God was not God. Before there was the very first sunrise, God was there. Before there was a calendar, God was there. He has always been. Our entire life is scheduled around time. Everything in our life. When we wake up, when we go to work, when we eat lunch, when we get off from work, when we get home, what time we go to bed, our anniversaries, birthdays, celebrations, vacations. We measure everything by time. We even measure distance by time. Hey, when are you going to be here? We don't say, I'm 5 miles out. What do we say? We say, I'm 30 minutes away. We measure everything by time. And Moses says, God has always been, and God has always been faithful. He is not constrained by time. He is bigger than all of that. So he's saying, I know life can happen fast. I know life can get scary. But guess what? We serve a God who is in control over all of it. Think about the generations that God carried. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Moses, David, the disciples, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your parents, our generation. And God, he has carried all of those generations, and he will continue to carry our kids and our grandkids and our great-grandkids and on and on and on, because God never changes. God is bigger than all of it. God has remained exactly who he has always been. Through world powers rising and falling, through economic booms and collapses, through wars and famines, changes in technology and changes in cultural norms and what's accepted, God has stayed the same. The same God who parted the Red Sea, the same God who sustained Israel in the wilderness, the same God who sent the plagues to Egypt, the same God who raised Jesus from the dead is the same God who lives inside of each one of us, and he is our dwelling place and he is our refuge. Moses had a ton of different locations. When you look at Moses' life, he had a lot of different locations, right? He had a home that he was born into, right? And then after he had to leave his home, he had to go into a basket that floated down the Nile River. And then he ended up in the palace. And then he ended up in the wilderness. And then he ended up in Midian. And then he ended up back in Egypt. And then he ended up in the desert. He had a lot of different locations. His locations changed repeatedly, but his true home did not. Because his dwelling place wasn't a tent in the desert. It was in the presence of his heavenly Father. And after 120 years, he's looking back and saying, God, you have always been the place that I go to for refuge and security. None of us like change. None of us do. And I doubt Moses liked it either. But because his shelter and refuge was God and not in the changes that were happening around him, he was secure. Because when your life is built on an eternal God, you have something that cannot be taken away from you. Anything in my life can be taken away from me at any moment. Through tragic situations or my own stupidity or whatever it might be. Anything in my life can be taken away like that, except my relationship with God. That can never be taken away from me. When my life gets hard, or when I go through periods of where I'm not, some darkness maybe, or some creeping in, or some things that I'm feeling, or I get overwhelmed by something, time and time again, I place my hope in God because God is God, and the fact that he controls everything. I have to, when life gets hard, when life gets overwhelming, I have to land at, God, I know you are in charge of all of this. I know you are in control of all of this. And I know that you are the same God who did this for me back then, and that you will answer me here, and you will be with me tomorrow. That is where we have to land. That's what gets Moses through all the ups and downs of his life, is God, you are in control of it all. When your life is built on an eternal God, you have something that cannot be taken away. And when times get difficult, I rest in passages like Psalm 90, or I rest in passages like Isaiah chapter 46, which says this. It says, listen to me, you descendants of Jacob, all the remnants of the people of Israel, you whom I have upheld since your birth and have carried since you were born. Even to your old age and gray hairs, I am He. I am He who will sustain you. I have made you, and I will carry you. I will sustain you, and I will rescue you. With whom will you compare me or count me equal? To whom will you liken me that we may be compared? Remember this, keep it in mind. Take it to heart, you rebels. Remember the former things, those of long ago. I am God, and there is no other. I am God, there is none like me. I made known the end from the beginning, from ancient times, what is still to come. I say, my purpose will stand, and I will do all that I please. From the east I summon a bird of prey, from a far-off land a man to fulfill my purpose. What I have said, that I will bring about. What I have planned, that I will do. When you are going through a hard time, when you are going through a time of uncertainty and a time of like, oh my goodness, all of this is scary, like communism, socialism, and wars, and famines, and this and that, rest in the fact that everything God says, what I have said, I will bring about. What I have planned, I will do. Take heart in the fact in verse 4 he says, I am He. I am He who will sustain you. He is the one who carries us through the hard times because He controls all of it. That is the God that we serve. And that is what Moses is telling us in 9. He's like, all these things are fleeting. All these things are overwhelming. All these things, life is short. But God is so much bigger than we can possibly even fathom. When life's circumstances change, God does not. When we feel like time is moving too fast for us and it's overwhelming, it's not overwhelming for Him. Everything around us changes with time. We change, our spouse changes, our house changes, our kids change, our job change. Everything changes around us with time, but the God who created time never changes. God is eternal, we are temporary. And because our days are limited, and because we are not God, and because we are limited to however long our life is, Moses teaches us, he's like, hey, life is short. Don't get to the end of it and have regrets. And so he teaches us something. He said, which is our second point this morning, is don't count your days, make your days count. The first part of 90 shows us the faithfulness and magnitude and just overall hugeness of God. And the second half asks the question, because God is faithful, what should we do with the life that He has given us? Moses had an incredible life, right? He was born, the time that he was born, he should have been killed, right? Pharaoh's going around killing all baby boys, right? And Moses was sheltered. He should have died, and yet he lived. Instead, so not only was he not killed, his mom got paid to raise him till he was weaned, right? And then he ends up in the palace and being one of the top princes in Egypt. He then kills a guy and runs away, and he ends up in a desert in the wilderness. Well, guess what? He meets his wife and marries her, right? And then he becomes a shepherd. Then he has an encounter with the burning bush, and God speaks to him out of a burning bush and says, hey, I've got a plan for you. I need you to go back to Egypt, and I need you to tell Pharaoh to let my people go. And as a result, Moses, he frees the Israelites from 400 years of slavery. He witnesses 10 plagues. He has the miracle of seeing his people going free. He watches the Red Sea part. He sees the Egyptian army drown behind him. He hits rocks with his staff, and water comes out. He has seen the back of God. He receives the 10 Commandments. He saw the golden calf. He heard the 12 spies report. He's watched anywhere from 1 to 1.5 million people die in the desert waiting to enter the promised land. He has been through some things. He has seen some things. He has experienced some things. He's lived a full, incredible, long life. And now, at the very end, he realizes life is short. You don't have very long left. And instead of pretending that death does not exist, he teaches us how to live. He is saying, I have done all of this, and it still feels like life is short. And he says in verse 12, teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. This entire chapter builds to this one request. Teach us to number our days, which, if you just read that, like, I don't want to think about how many days I have left. I don't want to think of that, in 30 years, 7 months, 2 weeks, 3 days, and 4 hours I'm going to die. Like, nobody wants to think about those kind of things. We don't want to, but nobody wants to, but that's not what Moses is telling us. That's not what he's getting at here. Moses is trying to get us as the reader to recognize every day is a gift, every breath that we take is grace, and every day is an opportunity to know God, to love people, and to make an eternal difference. Moses doesn't pray for more time, right? Most of us, we get to the end of our life like, God, give me more time. Give me more time. I got more things I want to do. God, I need to help my kids get a little bit further along. We pray for more time. And Moses, he prays, Lord, teach us how to make sure that the days that you've given us, that we use them wisely. He doesn't say extend. He said, Lord, help us to make the most out of every single day. There is never enough time to get everything done. I'm convinced that if I had 30-hour days, I'd still be drowning. Anybody else feel that way? If we had 8 days a week and 30 days, I still couldn't get things done. Right? There's never enough time to get everything done. Every single person in this room runs out of time to get everything on our to-do list done. But the question for us isn't, how do I get more time? The question is, how do I maximize the time that God has given us? Asking God to teach us to number our days is us telling God, Lord, show me how to make every day count for your glory. Show me how not to waste the days and calling that you have given me. Edward Payson is a 19th century preacher. He once wrote this in his journal. He says, I act as if eternal things were a dream. When shall I be wise? And we break that down, we think about it. It's so true for all of us. I act as if eternal things were a dream. Guys, all of us one day are going to die, and we're going to stand before our Heavenly Father. And we're going to have to give an account for our days. And he says, these eternal things, they're not a dream. They are real. We need to act wise. Verse 12 is a wake-up call to be wise with everyday life. Life happens fast, and if we don't steward it well, we get jammed up. Back in my day, you're going to get there one day, Garrett. I remember when I was in college. They give you a syllabus at the first of the year, right? First part of the semester. And they say, hey, this is when everything is, and this is when your papers are due. And then they tell you in class, hey, you've got a week until this paper is due. And me, because I was me, I wrote my best papers at about 3 a.m., about 4 hours before class was due, right? That's when I wrote my best papers, which might explain why why I got in trouble so much with my dad with grades, right? Maybe. Right? Because you see, why would I start writing this paper? I know it's due in a week. Why would I start writing it now? I have a week to do it. And so we would postpone things. We would wait. Listen, this is a confession time. One time I put off doing a book report for so long that class started and I still had not read the book, and I had to give an oral presentation in class over the book. Listen, you want to know how I can blow smoke the way that I do? I once gave an oral presentation on a book in front of 30 college students, and I hadn't read the book, right? You want to talk about pressure. You want to talk about uncomfortable, and oh my goodness, what am I going to do here, right? Because we see, I got plenty of time. I've got a long enough time that I can one day I will make a change. One day I will change how I do. One day I will talk to my neighbor. One day I will invite my friend to church. One day I will do this. One day I will go back to church. We all say that. We all think that. And Moses is saying, listen, that's no way to live life. God, he's telling us, pray that your prayer is, God, make sure that every single day that I live, I am living it for your glory. I am not wasting the opportunity that you have given us. I'm not missing these opportunities. Moses understands this. Moses was human. But here he is pleading with us, don't wait till the end. Don't waste your time, because once we grasp this and once we realize how long eternity is and how short our lives are in comparison, and what we do here on a day-to-day on a day-to-day basis, that it matters and that it carries eternal consequences, hopefully we will live differently. Hopefully we will live each day with purpose. And with this encouragement, though, there's also a warning. Because Psalms 90 is not simply Moses saying, hey, life is short, make some memories. This is not Moses saying, hey, listen, this is not a motivational speech of like, hey, guys, just go out and chase your dreams, make every day count. That is not what he's saying. He says, you have set our iniquities before you, our secret sins in the light of your presence. Moses reminds us that our days are not just passing days, they are accountable days. Every single day that we live, we are accountable for. Moses isn't concerned with us living long. This is not how to live to be 120. He's not concerned with how long we live. He is concerned about how we live. Living long is not his question. The whole thing that he's worried about is living well. Now, smarter people than me will argue about the timestamp of when Psalm 90 was written. We know it's the oldest psalm because it's the only psalm that Moses wrote, and so he's way before the rest of them. And some say that it was written during the events of Numbers 14, and others say that it was written during the events of Numbers 20. But either way, either one of those would make sense, because in Numbers 14 is where God tells Moses, right, the 12 spies have come back, and they've given the report, oh my goodness, we can't take this land, that's way too big. They're giants, we're ants in their eyes, right? And two of them like, no, we can take them, we got God on our side. And the people sided with the 10, like, yeah, we can't take this. And so as a punishment for not believing, like in God tells Moses, because of the rebels and grumblers in the crowd, that they now have to wander the desert for 40 years. That's Numbers 14, which would make sense about why Moses would write this. But also, in Numbers chapter 20, we read in that chapter, his brother and his sister die. It's also the chapter where Moses, remember we were talking about striking the rock and water came out? Well, the second time he did that, God had actually told him, hey, you got to speak to the rock, and the water come out. And Moses got angry and mad at the people, and he smacked the rock, and then he was disobedient. In Numbers 20, he loses his brother, he loses his sister, and God says, hey, because of your disobedience, you don't get to enter the promised land. Well, as I said, Moses had some great victories, but he also went through life as well. And both of those, both 14 and 20, are heavy chapters. So you can see how, in context, in Psalm 90 was written, like Moses is warning us here. Life is short, and how we live matters. How we live matters. Worship team, you guys can come on up. Each one of us will one day stand before God and give an account for how we lived. Listen, we serve a merciful God. And he's a God who wants to show us mercy, but that mercy will only come to those who trust in Jesus. We don't like talking about death. We don't like talking about hell. We don't like talking about consequences. But all of them are real, and all of them happen to each and every single one of us, which is why Moses is imploring for us to ask God, number our days. God, make sure that every single day that I live, I am living for you and for your glory, and I'm taking this serious. He wants us to realize the frailty of life and to make sure our salvation is in Christ alone and to fully trust him to be our shelter and our refuge. And he wants us to live a life that matters, a life that has purpose, a life that stewards all that God has given us well. That is what Moses is imploring us to do, is like live well. Honor God. Point people to Jesus. Point people to God in his mercy and his grace. Don't waste the opportunities that you have been given. Steward it well. Will you stand with me? In about 8 years, I'm going to be dropping Arrow off at college. I'm going to help her move to a new city or state or whatever, and it is going to be the hardest day of my life. I hate the idea of that. It will be the hardest day ever. It's also going to happen way faster than I want it to. And my hope, if I'm being honest, my hope is that I can stop it. But the reality is I can't stop it. There's nothing I can do to keep it from happening, as much as I may want to. My hope, though, and my prayer is that I steward the time between now and then well. God, I only got 8 years left. Let me steward this well. Let me make sure that she is ready to go to college, that she makes good decisions, that she is this, and that is all I can do, is make sure that every single day between now and then I steward it well. Because we can't change what's happening in the world around us. But we know the one who can. And God has given each and every single one of us days. He has given us life so that we can make an eternal difference, so that we can make an impact on the kingdom. And the Bible says, and Moses says here, steward it well. Moses watched an entire generation of people. Listen, I don't think we realize all the time. These million and a half people who died in the desert, who just didn't want to hear the report, these are the same people. They had experienced 400 years of slavery. Their entire life they were slaves. They saw the plagues. They saw God deliver them. They saw the Red Sea parted. They saw all of that. And yet still, they did not have enough faith that God would do what he said he would do. They did not have they died in the wilderness because they refused to fully trust God. They refused to fully trust or believe God. And they refused to fully worship God. Do not spend an entire lifetime chasing temporary things. Don't build a life on things that don't last. Spend your life doing things that matter, eternal things. Don't chase temporary happiness. Chase the eternal God who is bigger than time. Life is short, and one day we will die. That's just the truth. And how we lived every single day, it matters. I know life is scary and overwhelming and all of these things that you just listen. Just first of all, if you turn off the news, your happiness meter goes up like 50%, just automatically, right? Just turn it off. Don't worry about it. You're going to be way happier. But all the things that are going on, all the things that we get overwhelmed with, understand this and truly grasp it. We serve the God who is in control of it. He is not bound by anything that we are bound by. He is our dwelling place. He is our safe place. He is a place that we go to for refuge and strength and comfort. And he controls it all. And he wants us to steward every single day well because he wants, for his glory. Understand, we're stewarding it for his glory. We exist to tell people about Jesus. We exist to share the good news. We exist to be a light in the darkness. And Moses, at the end of his life, after all the things that he's witnessed, he's saying, God is bigger than it all. Steward it well. That's what he wants us to get. It still blows my mind when I think about all the people who died as a result of their unbelief, even though they had witnessed all the things that they had believed. Which also, it should make us stop and think, listen, if he can get them, he can definitely get us, right? That disbelief and anger and bitterness and what you fear. If he can get the people who watched God part the Red Sea, I'm not too big. I'm not too good of a Christian to be, not be overwhelmed by things. Trust God as our dwelling place. Trust him with our lives and live every single day like it matters because it does matter.